a cup of coffee, maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that. I'm going to keep my big BA, keep my friends the same, keep the government out of my business, and y'all can keep the change.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
We know what we need. We know who to blame.
Catch the Free American Hour, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon the fighters first, those who truly understand it. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of full peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first, and the hearts of freedom's vanguard who come from their simple homes to find the fire and fight. That symbolizes the full measure of human dignity and liberty.
Years ago in the swamps of South Georgia, cane full of crossmen in my hands, all I needed to be growed up. Homemade ice cream and barbecue and the family on Friday nights. 10 lame lamb on Saturday right before the morning light. Came the time I was old enough and I learned about the gun. And every night in summertime I answered what I done. Today looking I found the way it used to be. They got no respect and no control to steal this game's on TV. A burning deal, but I say all my rights away from me. It's my time we break the tool that keeps all men free.
Good morning, Revolution Radio listeners. The sun is rising across this great United States, and that means straight from the heart of Texas. It is time for Clayton Douglas, the Free American. Take it away, Clayton.
All right, I like that. From deep in the heart of Texas. I enjoy that. I've been on a 40-year self-imposed exile, and it's nice to be home. My guest today is Dennis Fetcho. and he's another talk show host. He's on freedomslips.com, on Revolution Radio. He was also broadcasting on TalkStream Live, a streaming website. And by the way, I'm looking into other alternative streaming sites. Matter of fact, I think I got 24 hours on one coming up. But under threats from Jewish media censors monitoring TalkStream Live, they removed without any notification his show Inside the Eye Live with the Fetch from Saturday's lineup. Now, sources note that Jewish groups have been active in monitoring online media sites in an effort to put a total blanket on the information flowing out of to the American people and larger global community, and that Inside the Eye Live was specifically targeted for deletion from TalkStream Live's aggregation lineup. Now, this is coming from, again, unseen, unknown people. I call them trolls on the internet. This is the same people that want to tell you that all Palestinians, including 10-year-old kids, are somehow terrorists, or they're going to grow up to be terrorists. It looks like Barack Obama took a page out of their playbook for a preemptive incarceration, thought crime, somebody might commit a crime later. Matter of fact, I think they've done that to Adam and versus the Man, another talk show host who was arrested during some kind of demonstration for legalization and charged with assaulting a police officer after they arrested him for nothing. But indeed, there's been a disturbing trend in the alternative streaming news media when seen in the light of de facto operating unaccountable Jewish censors. Americans and the world at large are seeing their choice of media programming increasingly censored, including completely disappeared from the World Wide Web, in an effort by Jews to preclude any mention of Jewish involvement in the theft of trillions of dollars from the United States economy, Jewish involvement in the poisoning of the food supply, Jewish involvement in the phony war on terror, Jewish involvement on the attack on the United States known as 9/11, and Jewish media manipulation, to name a few. Dennis, are you with me?
I believe so. Good morning.
Good morning, Sheriff. Welcome to the Free American Hour. I certainly enjoyed doing the show with you on Saturday, and despite the censors, we had over 20,000 people tune in to hear us, and I appreciate you giving me the chance to tell my story once again. That forms one chapter. Yes, sir, what?
I was just saying your show was very well received. People really wanted to hear what you had to say. So we had a very good show this past Saturday, and that again would be Inside the Eye Live, Saturday mornings right here on Revolution Radio.
Happy to do it anytime. I don't mind working 7 days a week. But, they when I started the Free American and the militia movement, and that J.B. Campbell had launched even earlier, I was suddenly attacked by the ADL and Southern Poverty Law, and I had no idea who they were, what that was about, and why they were attacking me. It's like, what part of the Second Amendment don't you understand? And they tell you that they try to make it sound like it was some kind of terrorist organization, but terrorist organizations don't meet in the governor's office. And the more I started studying, I was just outraged at the way the media reported on what happened in Waco. We had to murder. It was okay for the BATF to come in and murder 17 little children and their families to save them from a child molester. I was more outraged with the press for the way they covered it than even the government organizations, FBI and BATF, that initiated that. And as the more I got into it, after publishing the Free American for 10 years, I learned that all of these press, all of the media was controlled by Jewish interests, including the ADL and Southern Poverty Law. And the attacks on me continued and continue to this day, and obviously I've referred to myself as the canary in the coal mine, and they're going after you. Tell me a little bit about how you got started, how you got into the radio broadcasting business, and where you came to the realization that we're actually under attack by what Voltaire referred to as our masters. He said you can always tell who your masters are by who you're not allowed to criticize. Take it away.
Well, I got my start. I got my start. Really, I'm a blogger. I'm a Hermetic Kabbalist or Kabbalist, and what that means is I've studied quite extensively the philosophical structure of the English language, how it's designed, how it's mathematically put together, how Freemasonry put its influence and stamp on the language, how the language embeds and encodes a particular philosophy, and that philosophy is actually counter to what would be Talmudic or Jewish types of philosophies. Notice our language is a very positive language, although it can be used for ill. It's actually a very positive language, and the story in it tells a great truth, and that great truth is, of course, antithetical to what Jewish interests try to put forward on the philosophical scene. And I think you've covered that in some of your philosophical treatises on air also. So how I got started was as this blogger, and I was writing a lot of information, mainly about English, and I found that my message was constantly getting harangued, harassed, trolled, as you like to say, and that's very true. And unlike you, I really wasn't that keen on it. In fact, I used to think that, the Kabbalah was all this great stuff, until I started to see the differences in the Kabbalah systems. But I learned 2000, 2001, 1998 to 2002, that there's this really dark energy working the internet to really put people out of business, so that only particular paradigms are actually able to rise up to the surface. And then we had the 9/11 event, and within 4 hours, you could pretty much see this was a made-for-television event, and you could not pull off this type of made-for-television event without this huge amount of Jewish complicity, because these people control the studios, they control the movies that you're going to see. If you remember, they came out with Shank, I forget the name of it, Shank something 93, and they came out with all these martial type of movies right afterwards to try to get Americans to get gung-ho to go fight and die for this what do you call this, the neocon wet dream of controlling the world and so forth. And then as I expanded into the political world, I found more and more and more trolling, harassment. That harassment went into real life, people tracking down my home phone, my ex-wife's phone, calling my house saying, well, at the time I had a 13-year-old son, calling the house saying, your son got my daughter pregnant. And then, of course, my ex-wife calling me saying, Dennis, someone called me and said this. And of course, she doesn't understand, being from a foreign country, she's Chinese, that you had this really vicious, nasty, disgusting, pathetic people that actually are working the internet to keep people, good, honest, ethical people like you, like me, from getting our stories out there on the World Wide Web. And they will stoop to no means, including calling up a mother. If you can imagine getting a phone call 4 o'clock on Saturday saying, I'm so-and-so and your son got my daughter pregnant. That's the type of disgusting mentality of those who are out there censoring the internet, telling you as the audience what you can and can't hear, who you can and can't listen to. And if you don't do what they say, well, they're going to go file lawsuits and all these other issues that we see as forms of harassment that are really quite known within within mainstream culture for quite some time. These are methods that go all the way back to Henry Ford and before. So it's not like we don't know what's going on, it's just we aren't able to discuss it. And anyways, we just kept going with the blog. The blog grew up. It's the illuminatorsobserver.blogspot.com. It is one of the probably the best Hermetic Kabbalah blog in all of blogdom, as some of my readers say. And on it goes, and then that got into guest appearances on Red Ice Radio, which drew, which we had like some over 60,000 downloads in a couple of weeks. And on it's grown. And then eventually we went on to a Oracle Broadcasting Network. When it was in business, I did a show there, Clayton, and from there it just kept going. The audience kept building, and then Oracle invited me onto their network about a year and a half ago. And we took that up on a Saturday only. The show has grown, the audience has grown, and of course you've got the trolls, or basically these hate groups within the Jewish community who want to dictate to everybody in our culture and our society who you can and can't listen to. And of course they troll very hard. They don't troll. They are making threats to people at various aggregating sites to try to get our shows taken off the air. And what needs to happen is, in many respects, is if you really like these shows, and it's not just mine but others, you need to write the ownerships and say, hey, put these shows back on. Not because we're begging you, but because you have a right to hear us. And there are certain people out there that are very nasty, very disgusting. They are basically children in mindset. You're basically being dictated to by people with the mental skills and reasoning of 5-year-olds. They got the logic of not much more than a maybe 70, 80 IQ person. They're not very smart people, but they play a very nasty game, Clayton. And that really is the issue. I mean, they play a very nasty game.
They have done that to me since I started publishing the Free American. Even I was doing worldwide shortwave, so they didn't have a lot of control over that. I was broadcasting on worldwide Christian radio, shortwave. But they would go into gun stores that were carrying the Free American. They would go into my advertisers and tell them, oh, you're carrying this anti-Semitic Pete rag. We'll tell all of our friends not to shop here. And as a matter of fact, I had one of my magazines that was not even political, didn't talk anything about Jews, just featured motorcycles, and they contacted every stockholder. I had it sold for $500,000. They contacted every stockholder to warn them about how Clay Douglas was anti-Semitic, which, by the way, is a trick. They brag about that. That's a trick we always use. We just tell somebody tell them they're anti-Semitic, and everybody stops listening to them. Everybody listens to us. That's what they do.
And this has been going, Clayton, again, for well over a century now. Henry Ford, he discussed this issue all the way back in 1919, 1920, 1921. So this isn't as if this is a new strategy. This is Kevin McDonald. He's a brilliant writer, and he talked a lot about groupthink strategies. And what that really means is various ethnic groups, they do have a macro strategy as part of their survival. And Jewish people, just as other groups, have their groupthink strategies. And this type of pathetic, disgusting maneuvers is just part of Jewish groupthink strategies. And people just need to wise up to it and understand when this is going into full play, that what you are witnessing is a groupthink strategy. And they're basically playing the audience for suckers. And if you want to keep being a sucker, well, as far as they're concerned, they have a right to keep playing you for a sucker. And as long as the people are willing to be played for suckers, well, as far as they're concerned, it's open game, and they can play you for a sucker, and they're going to keep doing it.
I would say, and you pointed this out in the opening there, that they have really played Americans for suckers, especially with the banking systems. Now, whether these are Jews, whether they're Masons, whether they're Germans, whatever they are. You know, they have played America for suckers, and as far as I'm concerned, Israel is a criminal safe country for criminals. If you go there, people like Mark Rich, who rip Americans off for millions of dollars and then can take refuge in Israel and not be extradited.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to address something in the chat room I see, because it's one of these strategies used by these people in groupthink strategy. You know, the comment out there is put in the chat room. It's easier to blame others for your misfortunes than to take personal responsibility, which really doesn't mean anything, because it's not taking into effect what people are being subjected to. Now I know, Clayton, you were the assault. You were hit by a car, put in a hospital for 3 months, and while you were at it, people are targeting your magazines, they're targeting your advertisers. Since when is that blaming others? When you are actually under physical assault, you're not blaming others, you're bringing the facts to the front and to the fore. Don't sit, you know, I hear people, blame others. We're not blaming. We are saying, look, when you are under a targeted campaign and you're isolated, you're not blaming others. You're just telling the facts as they occur. Myself, I was hit with some non-lethal weaponry that left scars and burns on my chest for almost a year. Okay, you try working in a rational world when you're getting hit with microwaves 24/7, and you want to say you can't blame others. Give me a break, guys. If you can actually handle that level of oppression, okay, come talk to me. But I bet you most of you, with your clown-like statements about how it's easier to blame others, you've never had the experience being targeted by extremely powerful, unethical, and illegal operatives within the U.S. government, or operations being protected by the U.S. government. In that, I'm referring to people that are working under witness protection programs, who are basically, they're thugs, they're very sinister, disgusting people, and they're able to do things to other people because they're under a witness protection plan. So this is a very serious issue. Now, everyone is responsible for everything that comes to them or comes to them. Again, no, because you don't have the right to go out and target people. Because now what you're trying to do is blame the victim. See, a lot of people, they want to come forward with these irrational Jewish arguments. Gee, you're responsible for what came to you. No, we are not responsible for some thug within the government coming and attacking us under doing criminal activity. Again, these are issues that we all know that's going on, right, Clinton? We know it's going on. The problem is we can't get people out there to move, because you got the idiots out there that saying, oh, well, it's just your fault. Again, go blame the victim. That's a classic Jewish strategy, Clayton, to keep the heat off of them and put it back onto their victims and their targets. I find it absolutely fascinating that you have people with these intellectually bankrupt arguments actually still being able to talk without people saying, God, what an idiot. Yeah, go blame the rapist guy, right? Everything is responsible. Go blame the rapist, right? And that's kind of the way Jewish logic works. They want to blame the victims for being victimized by Jewish interests. And it is high time that people wake up to exactly what is going on, because you know what? It keeps going and going. This is like a fire. And it feeds on this type of disaster to other people, and it won't quench itself until it consumes everything. And okay, you got 47.5 million people on food stamps. Well, we tried to get this story out that this was coming to America for over a decade. Literally a decade. And what happened? You allowed people who are unethical, immoral, to attack people like myself to get it out. And then, now you got the problem. So again, if you're going to put forward the argument, Clayton, that people are, you know, in other words, if you're a victim of some crime by Jewish people going after you, like you have or I have, well, you know what? Then let's stop the pretenses of anti-Semitism. Because every act of anti-Semitism, well, they're responsible for that anti-Semitism, right, Clayton, if we use Jewish logic. And this is another way that we can start to play with the insanity of Jewish logic. Because on one side, they want to blame you and me, Clayton, for what happens to us. But then they want to have a free pass when people are quote-unquote anti-Semitic. Well, if you're going to say it's okay to happen to me because, hey, you know, it's just my fault. Well, I'll tell you what. Next time somebody smashes a Jewish guy in the face, well, you're going to use the same victim procedure. You're going to claim hate crime. See, the logic doesn't apply to Jewish people. It only applies to their victims. You get where I'm coming from?
Yes, sir. Like the ones we've got in here that are saying, oh, it's easier to blame others for your misfortunes than take personal responsibility. You know, I take all kinds of responsibility for my own actions, and but you know, God help you. I don't start a fight, but you can always have the first swing with me, and then I'll put you in the hospital. You know, I don't turn the other cheek.
I'm going to go to the people that really believe that you know, okay, I'll go with you because I get where you're coming from. Then the next time somebody goes and targets a Jewish group, are you going to give me the same statement that, hey, well, they were just, it's their fault for having what happened to them? In other words, are you going to apply a double standard to people who are white and intelligent? Or are you going to give a different standard to somebody who's Jew and doesn't really quite have the same skills we might have in trying to rationalize this thing out? See, that's where I get really frustrated because I am a Kabbalist. I study the esoteric secrets within the English language. I know this language better than most. So when I see people trying to play this in a certain way and play this in a certain way, hey, but it doesn't matter. See, we have a troll here. See, he's like trolling our chat room right now, Mr. Sheeple. You know, once again, we don't care. It doesn't matter. All Jews, some Jews, it doesn't matter. This is Jewish semantics. If something happens to anybody in the Jewish community, hey, they deserve everything that happened to them because that's your language. That's your logic.
All right, let's do something. You know, goes back. I've told people I did a film out, and I probably still got it somewhere here, called No Such Thing as a New World Order. And on the cover of my book, Mystery Babylon, I tell you, 2,000 years ago, the Bible told us of the coming of the New World Order as the eighth beast, the mark of the beast, and warned us about the Jews who say they are Jews but are not. Jesus told us that they were liars and of their father, Satan. In this book, the past meets the future. Now, folks, you can get that book. You can read it tonight for a $10 donation. And you want to? I've got something. It's also 200 years ago. These Satanists, and let's call it what it is. I'm not going to call them Luciferians because I think Lucifer was just demonized, and I think the Jewish God Yahweh was really the devil in disguise. But that's for my science fiction, so I won't approach that. But I want to. I'm going to give you something that was found. Now, again, you know, if you mention anything about the protocols of the elders of Zion, the Jews will start screaming, "Oh, well, don't you know that's a forgery? That's a forgery." Well, let's see. It was written 2,000 years ago. I mean, 200 years ago. Discovered 200 years ago. Probably written 2,000 years ago in that satanic document we call the Talmud. And listen, I really appreciate your studying the Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, because I studied that too under Aleister Crowley. I read a lot of his works. And I'm going to share this with you and with our audience here. And then I want you to tell me, if you can tell me where it comes from and what the problem is. When somebody says something's a forgery, I say, well, what is a forgery? It's the exact copy of the original. Now, what we've been talking about today, folks, is relevant. What's that? What's that, Dennis?
That's a great point. A forgery is an exact copy of the original.
Yeah, and
that's a great point. A forgery is an exact copy of the original.
And if it was done 200 years ago, whether it's a forgery or it don't even matter who wrote it. It could be a bunch of bushmen in Africa that got an education. Maybe it was a bunch of rabbis sitting around a Jewish kibbutz. I don't know. I wasn't there. But as Henry Ford told you, what does it mean today? Who is using this today? Now, under a document called the Secret Covenant, and I took it out of a book called The Culling of Man. The author of this book will be on my show on Thursday, or next week sometime. I've lost what day it is, so bear with me. An illusion it will be, so great, so vast, it will escape their perception. Those who see it will be thought of as insane. We will create separate fronts to prevent them from seeing the connection between us. We will behave as if we are not connected to keep the illusion alive. Our goal will be accomplished one drop at a time, so as to never bring suspicion upon ourselves. This will also prevent them from seeing the changes as they occur. If we will work together always and will remain bound by blood and secrecy, death will come to he who speaks. We will keep them their lifespan short and their minds weak while pretending to do the opposite. We will use our knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways so they will never see what is happening. We will use soft metals, aging accelerators, and sedatives in food and water and also in the air. They will be blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. The poisons will be hidden in everything that surrounds them, and what they drink, eat, breathe, and wear. We will create medicine that will make them sicker and cause other diseases, for which we will create yet more medicine. We will render them docile and weak before us by our power. Their minds will belong to us, and they will do as we say. If they refuse, we shall find ways to implement mind-altering technologies into their lives. We will use fear as our weapon. We will establish their governments and establish opposites within. We will own both sides. They will perform labor for us, and we shall prosper from their toil. Our families will never mix with theirs. Our blood must be pure always, for it is the way. We will make them kill each other when it suits us. We will keep them separated from oneness by dogma and religion. We will control all aspects of their life and will tell them to think and what to think and how. We will guide them kindly and gently, letting them think they are guiding themselves. We will foment animosity between them through our factions. When light shall shine among them, we shall extinguish it by ridicule, death, or whatever suits us best. We will make them rip each other's hearts apart and kill their own children. They will bathe in their own blood and kill their neighbors for so as long as we see fit. We will benefit greatly from this, for they will not see us, for they cannot see us. We will continue to prosper from their ways, wars, and their deaths. We will make them live in fear and anger. We shall use all their tools that we have to accomplish this. The tools will be provided by their labor. We will make them hate themselves and their neighbors. We will always hide the divine truth from them, that we are all one. This they must never know. Drop by drop, we will advance our goals. We will take over their land, resources, and wealth to exercise total control over them. If we do, we will deceive them into accepting laws that will steal what little freedom they have. We will establish a money system that will imprison them forever, keeping them and their children in debt. When they shall band together, we shall accuse them of crimes and present a different story to the world, for we shall own all the media. When they shall rise up against them, we will crush them like insects, for they are less than that. They will be helpless to do anything, for they will have no weapons. We will recruit some of their own to carry out our plans. We will promise them eternal life, but eternal life they will never have, for they are not of us. The truth will be hidden in their face, so close they will not be able to focus on it until it is too late. Oh yes, so grand an illusion of freedom will be, so grand the illusion of freedom shall be, that they will never know they are our slaves. When it's all in place, the reality we have created for them will own them. Their minds will be bound by their beliefs, the beliefs we have established from time immemorial. But if they ever find out they are our equal, we shall perish then. This they must never know. If they ever find out that together they can vanquish us, they will take action. They must never, ever find out what we have done, for if they do, we shall have no place to run. No one shall give us shelter. This is the secret covenant by which we shall live the rest of our present and future lives, for this reality will transcend many generations in lifespan. This covenant is sealed by blood, our blood. Dennis, every sentence that I read there, I can see it happening now. Big Pharma, Archer Daniels Midland, and the Monsanto and the chemtrails all come to mind, evoked by this piece written 200 years ago. Before they could spray our...
There is, for sure. I don't doubt, Clayton, that we do have a very dark force working on this planet. They don't own it yet. Are they working very hard to get it? Yes. What we see in Spain, what we see in France lately is just one weapon that can be used against it. You're going into great vineyards. You're going into fields, and people like in India, they're burning down now Monsanto product because it's clear that the government and the big pharma, big agricultural businesses work together. So the only recourse you have is to use violence. And here's the funny thing, Clayton, and I something that I don't understand and I do understand, and that is the use of violence as a political tool. Now, nobody is recommending that you go use violence as a political tool, but we had a show, the guy's name was Hal Turner, I believe, or not Hal Turner. I forget his name. I'm sorry about that to the guy who did it. But here's what he's basically saying, is that the courts exist in order to keep things from getting violent. That's what they're there for. And when you are of this oppressive nature, take the 9/11 case, the Mariani case, where you have one single Jewish judge, guys, dictating to everybody what the terms of the truth is regarding 9/11. And we can all see that this judge is extremely unethical. He's dishonest. He should not be there. He should be recused. He should not be involved. All his work should be overturned. But the issue to be made here is that when you are not able to get redress in the courts, all that is left for the people is violence. And that was the lesson of Libya. That's what the State Department would like to tell you. That is supposed to be the lesson of Syria. That's what the State Department is trying to tell you. And that was supposed to be the lesson inside of Egypt. So these people understand that. These people who are seeking to have absolute dominance and control, they understand that if they take away all avenues or all venues of recourse or redress, then the only solution left for the people is going to be violence. And so I can't understand, and I can't understand. In other words, they understand that if they stack the courts absolutely, and there's no incremental measure going on to stop this encroaching tyranny, then the only recourse will be violence. And I think that's what they fear the most. That's why they're trying to put the gun laws into place. That's why they're trying to buy up all the ammunition, because they want to preclude any type of redress by the people. Because you can't stop the people at the end of the day. You know, the people, whoever is running these governments, they are the people too. People know where they live. They know who they are. You know, it's monolithic, but it can be broken. And that's something that people do need to understand. But they need to turn their TV off, get a bit focused. You know, why isn't there massive protest outside of Hellerstein's house in New York, the guy that's responsible for the 9/11 trial? You know, the compensation for the 9/11 victims. Why aren't people protesting in front of this guy's house, demanding that he be sent out, get out? Because he doesn't represent American interests. Clearly he represents Jewish interests. Because he's part of the cover-up, and we all know that. Anybody with half a brain knows that. If you're from the Jewish community, I know you don't know that, So what's that say about that beacon of light status we have to hear all the time? Why can't you guys get it?
Well, you know, throughout our history, I mean, John F. Kennedy, who was murdered by proponents of the Great Plan for standing up against him, said the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. The high office of the president has been used to foment a plot to destroy Americans' freedom, and before I leave office, I must inform the citizen of this plight. And he was killed within 3 months of that statement. Douglas MacArthur said, I'm concerned for the security of our great nation, not so much because of any threat from without, because of the insidious forces working within. It's, you know, our history is strewn with people that knew what was happening 200 years ago. Thomas Jefferson said, I know of no safe depository of the ultimate powers of society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. That's why I have Timothy Bible College. That's why I support the Little Red Schoolhouse, because these people, whatever you want to call them, elitists, Masons, lawyers, judges, congressmen, Jews, whatever you want to call them, if they're not working to inform and to enlighten us and to keep us free, then we have to do them. And J.B. Campbell, maybe he's the man that first started the militias, and he doesn't really fully agree with the whole Second Amendment, because he thinks that was a form of control. But he said we got to stand up and kill these people that are, because they are trying to kill us. And I've said the problem that we have, that as I see it, is how do you fight evil without becoming evil? I really don't want to kill anyone, but you've got people like Henry Kissinger that says we must speak more clearly about sexuality, conception, about abortion. And speaking of that, we've killed our own children to the tune of 50 million in this last 50 years. So Henry Kissinger says we got to talk about abortion, about values that control population, because of the ecological crisis, which is non-existent. In short, there is a population crisis. Cut the population by 90%, and there aren't enough people left to do a great deal of ecological damage. They wrote that in stone, called the Georgia Guidestones. Now, do you agree with that? I guess you might agree with that if you're the 10% that aren't going to be murdered, but I don't particularly see us, you and I, being included in that.
I've spoken to people from Black Place, and I've spoken from people from the Black Lodge out of Los Angeles area, California area. These are very high-level people. Most of them are working within the OTO or Thelema, and you know, they have this mentality. I mean, they share this mentality, right, with the Noahidists, the Likudniks, and this type of energy. There's a lot where it's coming from. I mean, for the most part, we have it all isolated. We know where, you know, as intelligence units go out there in the world, a lot of them are stupid. They're not very intelligent. You know, they just do their job and they really don't get it. But on this planet, we have a lot of smart people, you know. We're not all stupid. Everything's been isolated. You know, everybody, you know, and it's within the, and I believe there are fighting factions going on in the intelligence world, although it doesn't seem to be. But it's impossible, and I think your guest yesterday mentioned this. It's impossible for people within the intelligence community somewhere to know or not know that Israel did 9/11. You know, it's impossible to not know this. It's impossible to not know that the U.S. media was involved in helping this massive treason against the American people. My goodness, just the CNN or whatever, the BBC talking about the Solomon building, hey, this report just in. I mean, come on, if that's not enough evidence and proof to show you that this thing was scripted and the script was off, then I don't know how to help you. You know, okay, obviously what's before your eyes, even if you see it, you can't see it. So I can't help you. But nonetheless, people know. People do know So it is a monolithic conspiracy. Jack Kennedy, he spoke about this before I was even born, okay? So this has been going on for quite some time. Henry Ford spoke about it. Everyone sees it who needs to see it, if you know what I mean. If you need to know what's going on, you know what's going on. Our job is really just to create more of a political mass, not to deal with the intricacies on the policy side. That's not our business. Our business is to raise awareness so that you have political cover. 70% of the American people do not believe the official 9/11 story. Okay, you're talking over a couple 100 million people really do not believe this official 9/11 story. How do we take that political mass and allow movement, political cover? In other words, you need political mass to allow for political cover to allow the politics to work out. And that's where the word and the media is so effective. And that's why we see, going back to the start of the show, that is why you see Jewish people monitoring even shows down into, my goodness, you're in Revolution Radio and you're trying to censor shows because, why? Because it's very important that the message be controlled. And there's no other way out of it. They need to control the message because once you get a political mass going, it's going to be impossible to stop. And once you have enough political cover, then you can start to pull all these various mousetraps and start to catch things.
Well, let me show you. Here's the problem. Here's the problem we've got. We've got people that are supposedly working for us that say, "I think the world will have a better chance of coming together and getting along once all the washed-up, old, racist, old garbage who are simply unwilling to change finally drop dead." But that's going to take time. You know what? You can stick that where the sun don't shine. I'm not going to, no, I'm not going to accept that, and I'm not dropping dead either, although they keep trying to kill me.
Here's what I say to that. Those are open-ended statements that absolutely mean nothing. What you really need people to do is to force them to define exactly what they mean by it. Because what we don't want to do in the world of words, and once we talk about the media, we are dealing in the world of words. We don't want to be getting into too much anymore about reading into these open-ended constructions that are basically done in some Jewish think tank, because they are cleverly crafted. They are designed to hit a target. So what we need to learn to do is to twist this back around and use the old sales feedback. Feed it back to them. Oh, that's interesting. What did you mean by that? You mean it won't change until we get rid of Netanyahu? It won't change until we get rid of Paul Wolfowitz. It won't change until we get rid of the ADL, because all of these are pretty old institutions too. In fact, a lot older than you and I doing they do compared to what we do. Let's feed it back in. Let's not allow these targeted statements too much to affect our reasoning. Feed it back, because quite frankly, they're open-ended. You can read whatever you want into it, so feed it back in a way that benefits you. This is how you bring down these Jewish think tank strategies, one-line strategies. That's my advice to people out there.
We are currently living in the New World Order transitional phase, from a planet of sovereign nations to a borderless one-world government controlled by the wealthiest, most diabolical, evil people in the world. I don't know who your grandmother slept with, and I don't care. That's not the point. If you are trying to dominate other people, if you are trying to kill other people, then you fall on the evil side of the line. That's and many of these people that are on the evil side of the line, like Henry Kissinger and George Bush, even George Bush Jr., who referred to the Constitution as just a goddamn piece of paper, these are our enemies. And if you're too blind to see that, and you want to sit in and try to silence me or Dennis here by your criticisms, by your can't we all just get along? Well, not if you're trying to kill me and my family. not if you're trying to poison me and my family, not if you're going after my neighbors and trying to take their farm because, oh, you found some genetically modified plants on there that they didn't pay royalties on. I mean, and this is all plank number 9 of the Communist Manifesto. They want corporate farms. You know, the New World Order is the corporate takeover of humanity, which you could define as fascism. You know, not just, but remember, you know, Rabbi Weiss, a head rabbi, said some people call it communism, but I call it Judaism for the masses. So the Jews are in here, and I don't believe the little grandmother next door needs to be hauled out and shot because her son became a lawyer, and she happens to be Jewish because her mother was Jewish. You know, that's not what it's about. That's what I say we got to kind of temper this. So, you know, because I don't agree with the white racist either. I don't agree with the black racist, and I don't believe you got to be a racist to join the Aryan nations. I'm white and proud of it. I'm Texan and proud of it. But that don't mean I got to go. I want to go out and kill everybody from Louisiana.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say to that? You know, I'm just kind of participating in your chat room there. People seem very confused. You know, they seem very confused at the way words are used, which is quite fascinating, quite frankly. I just find it fascinating. People are very confused.
Well, look at this. Doesn't matter what race, religion, or gender you are, hatred and bigotry needs to end. What kind of crap is that? I mean, I don't care what color you are, and I don't care what religion you are. I've said this a number of times, Dennis.
If you think that hatred and bigotry needs to end, then here's what you have to say. Here's my response to that. If you believe that hatred and bigotry need to end, first you need to get rid of Torah. Torah is a very fountain of hatred and bigotry. Now, if you want to go after publications and efforts, you need to get rid of Torah. Torah is a book of basically designed around hatred and bigotry. So if you believe that, are you ready to go take and get rid of Torah? Are you ready to take that on? Or are you just talking? You know, people like to make statements in which they sound big, but they don't understand the political consequences and the reality of the statement. Yeah, go ahead, get rid of hatred and bigotry. We're all for that. Yeah, see, okay, they're agreeing with us there. Okay, you know, that's good to see, but, you know, to those who are reading into this in a different way, my thing is, yeah, you need to go out and take rid of Torah. You need to get rid of those who are preaching Torah. Okay, anyone that preaches Torah is involved in this. You know what I mean? Because Torah is a book based on racism and bigotry. Of course, people aren't ready to actually go out and attack them.
The Torah, you mentioned the Torah, but let's talk about the Talmud. I have, this is the Talmud that attacks Christians. This is the, and this is the old Babylonian Talmud. What's that? What's that, Dennis?
I said, the Talmud has the word mud in it. Whether that's for a reason.
You know, I really don't care what religion you are or what race. Our Constitution protects that. Our founding fathers knew that. So you want to stick your nose in the dirt and your ass up in the air? Go ahead. I'll try to keep St. Bernard's off of you if I'm in the neighborhood. And if you want to beat your head against that Wailing Wall, knock yourself out. But don't expect me to do it with you. I'm not going to do that. To me, this is about the rights of the individual. And we got to have a second hour coming up here. We will take some calls. You know, if you're calling to attack us, you'll be hung up on immediately. I don't need to put up with that kind of crap. But
I don't mind dealing with it. I don't mind dealing with it.
Well, I mean,
I don't mind dealing with some of it. It's okay for me. It makes for good radio sometimes, you know.
You've got more patience.
To actually call me for the most part.
Yeah, well, let's see. We got 347.
Because if you want to get
We got 347-688-2902. And on Skype, that's Freedom Screen. But, yeah, we'll take calls on the second hour. And you need to make a donation to keep Revolution Radio on the air. Without Revolution Radio, you wouldn't hear the show, you wouldn't be hearing Fetch the Show, because they've succeeded in taking over most of our Patriot networks, because most of the Patriot networks depend on the donations or the advertising for all the Jewish companies. So, hang on, we'll be right back.
What the hell will remain a dictatorship? Oh, be quiet. Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests.
Tune in Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time for Liberation Nation with Deacon John, where America comes to hear the truth.
I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try.
What is that, a woman? Or scared of losing their job? Followed by the Nichols would. Shopkeepers keep them tied under the cutter. Plants are running wild in the streets, and nobody anywhere seems to know what to do with it. No end to it. We know the air is unfit and clean. We know things are bad, worse than bad. I want you to get mad. I want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime and the speed. All I know is this first. You've got to get mad. You've got to say it's time a human being. God damn it. Finally, I tell you. Yo! Be here Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and nearest news with Jason Brentwood. Because when it's time to crush, it's time for Jason. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind. Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs, government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Now you can share the topics that drive the discussions of your favorite talk shows with TalkStream Live's topic-driven talk radio. List and promote real-time talk radio topics, or post the topics that you want to hear. Hot topics are tweeted and retweeted, and include simple click-to-listen audio links. The future of talk radio is topic-driven talk radio. Available now at TalkStreamLive.com.
Revolution Radio. victory, how close we are to absolute chaos. The sick ones are sitting on their fat asses, eating and drinking themselves into a stupor, polluting the world without a second thought when it goes down the toilet. Nobody wants to do the nasty work. You know, the shit that we all just think about. Most good citizens are just along for the ride and then bitch and moan and complain about everything when it doesn't work out. Get it?
Revolution Radio, where we do the nasty work. www.freedomslips.com.
You realize you're caught in a dream. The adventure begins. Put your seat backs and tray tables in the upright position as we take a trip in the very fabric of reality. Join me, Andrew Parsons, for Adventures into Reality, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon at Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation. Is survival from gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about yet. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it, I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
All right, and let me pull another quote from the Illuminati Observer.blogspot.com. As Alexander Solzhenitsyn so aptly revealed, we cannot state that all Jews are Bolsheviks. But without Jews, there would have never been Bolshevism. For a Jew, nothing is more insulting than the truth. The blood-maddened Jewish terrorists had murdered 66 million victims in Russia from 1918 to 1957. And Dennis, my guest today, is Dennis Fetcho, the Fetch, and that I think that history repeats itself. We've been warned, if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. And I think what happened to the Russians is going on with us right now. They may have murdered, if they, as they stated in the first half here of what I talked about from the protocols, they intend to murder our children, and they are doing that. They are murdering us. They murdered our children at Waco. They murdered the children at Sandy Hook. They murdered the children at Columbine. And, you know, who was responsible for those? We know it was Jews in Columbine. We don't know who was behind Sandy Hook. But, and we will take calls, folks. The phone number is 347-688-2902. 480, you might call back in, and we'll bring you up in this hour here. All right. My guest, Dennis Fetcho. Go ahead, Dennis.
Caught me in the middle of a raisin there. Now here in Jordan, we have lots of grapevines. So you pick the grapes at the end of summer, and then you got a few weeks of heat left. You put them on aluminum plates, and you make your own raisins. So I've actually got a bowl of fresh, homemade raisins here. I'm munching while we do the show.
Mm. Now, how is it in Jordan? I mean, you're still in pretty close proximity to Israel there. What's it like there? What's it like there? I mean, if you're listening to the mainstream, you know, we really have no idea.
Well, I mean, for Americans, Jordan's very strong. So if you're American or Western European, the elite here, as long as you stay in West Amman, you're going to be very comfortable. You're going to be welcome in large parts of the country, but just as you don't want to go into certain parts of America and certain parts of any country for that matter, you know, there's parts where you're not going to be welcome. But you know, trust me, I've had AK-47s pulled on me in South Central Los Angeles, and I've never had an AK-47 pulled on me here. Okay, you know, but it's a lot of stress right now because of the problems up in Syria. Today we have a big gathering of Qatar, United States, and a few others, Britain, France, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, of course, and Syrian, which is really the proxy invasion forces against Syria, are here in Amman today. So there's a big conference. Jordan has shut down the border crossing between here and Syria. They are not allowing any more refugees to come in, so that's a problem for, of course, the Syrians. So there's a lot of stress. We had a big spat between Iraq and Jordan this past week. I actually was with the ambassador from Iraq last week. On Thursday, we had a meeting, and then he said, "Excuse me, but I have to go to an award ceremony." He left for that award ceremony. He went, and then there was a group of lawyers that basically attacked the ceremony. Ended up being a huge fight between security people for the Iraqi embassy and the Jordanian lawyers union members. That has resulted in a huge amount of staff members from the Iraqi staff being sent home. Apologies from the Iraqi government. There's a lot of stuff on the streets now. You guys can remember 9/11. It was going, if you were Arab, you had to keep your head down. Well, that's happening here now against the Iraqi population. Some Iraqis are having to keep their head down because of these issues. So, but aside from that, it's a lot like Los Angeles, you know, a little bit different flavor, Clayton, but it's kind of like that, you know, kind of like Los Angeles weather-wise. The people are difficult, you know, the economy is difficult, as you can imagine. They don't have a good economic base, they don't have a good industrial base.
What about the, some people, or Jim Stone, I believe, is reporting that this bunker buster bomb that was dropped on Syria was nuclear, and has there been any feedback from that, or any information on that?
No, nobody's buying Jim Stone's story there.
Okay.
What it probably was some type of Mubarak bomb, you know, a glide bomb that it did probably ignite over the surface, and they did wipe out quite a bit. But a bunker busting type of bomb, you're going to bore into the ground 40, 50, 60 meters, you know, something like that, 20 meters, 30 meters, and then explode inside the earth. This isn't what happened. Nuclear, you know, highly unlikely. You would have to have very, 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 very low yield nuclear warhead to pull that off. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be caught. The Russians are there. Come on, guys. You think the Russians and the Chinese aren't going to be on the spot investigating exactly what happened? And it's not going to be possible for Israel to take such a risk.
Well, what about the attack?
Here.
What about the attack in this ongoing war? I mean, we're backing the rebels. Are we backing Al Qaeda there? Is this stemming from Israel? Where's this attack on Syria coming from, and
yeah.
what is the motivation behind it? Is it just to get closer to Iran? We know that they want to war with Iran.
I mean, General Wesley Clark spoke about this 6, 7 years ago. That the neocons, and yes, they're Jewish guys. I'm sorry to those of you who can't handle that word, but they're Jewish, okay? Much of the states of our control, guys. That's just a fact, okay? Quit trying to, what do we say, diminish reality here. I mean, you have to deal in political reality, otherwise you're never going to solve the issues. But nonetheless, this is just part of a grand strategy by basically governing Jewish groups within, Jewish groups that are high level, basically controlling the government, foreign policy. So it is Al Qaeda, it is these very terrorist units. There was a huge attack just 3 days ago on a city called Unaccountable. It's a strategic town on the highway between Damascus and Tartus, heading towards the coast. And an Israeli vehicle was found there, along with encryption devices. Some 25 foreign nationals were caught by both the Syrian government and Hezbollah support groups that are helping to support the Shia villages up, on the coast there. Not really on the coast, but on the side of Lebanon. So we do know Israel is heavily involved. Of course, the United States government is heavily involved. You can't send hundreds, almost $400 million to the rebels and expect it not to support lethality. You know what I mean? In other words, that $400 million means that other money can be used for lethality. So obviously they're helping improve the lethality of these rebels. But the tide has turned. I mean, you've had some remarkable success by the Syrian government, and Bashar al-Assad, who's the president, was speaking to an Argentine newspaper or television this weekend in an interview, and he's saying, look, America's going to lose this war, and they're pragmatic people. They will deal with it. They will deal with the new reality. And I think there's a lot of panic now in the West. You hear a lot of panic trying to get red lines crossed. But you're just not going to do it because, again, there are positive factions working within U.S. and Western intelligence that are trying to stop this Jewish/neocon operation. And, of course, it's sad to see what they've done to Syria. Syria is such a beautiful place. The people are very warm. They're very educated. They have a huge industrial base. Their tourism, Clayton, was $7 billion before this thing started. So obviously they were opening up. They were trying to open up. Things in the Middle East move slower than they do in the West. But gals, if you recall, you couldn't vote up until 1926, 27 or so in the United States. Things take time. Okay, it's not as if you just turn overnight. And the Middle East has to catch up. The elites here, they know that. They do have to catch up. But
now, tell me a little bit.
Always having to fight wars.
Tell me a little bit about Libya from that standpoint. But let's take this call from 480. You've been pretty persistent. Who do we have here from Arizona? 480. Speak up.
Hey, sorry about that. Had to get my gloves off. I'm working and listening to you guys. This is Nathan Deadmore with Fast Cap Radio and my website, SocialBot.com. And I just wanted to chime in with what you guys are talking about. The guy that you guys made reference to, in the chat room, as possibly being a troll, there's still truth into what he said. I mean, we've got everything you guys are talking about. I'm not hearing any solutions, and the only solutions that we've come up with is to basically create or transmit the best we can a meme throughout America, wherever you are in your communities, a meme of critical thinking, to where we can start learning how to not put the cart before the horse, how to, take in information properly, process it properly, and come up with the proper approach, so that we don't end up in a bloody revolution. None of this. I don't think that guy was. You can't say that whoever that was specifically trying to derail anything that you guys are talking about. It seems to me like it's just an overall frustration that we don't know what to do, and we have no solutions. Everything you guys have said after that, pretty much applies to William Cooper and silent weapons for quiet wars, stuff that we know. It's preaching to the choir. It's like what we want to do is to come up with a tactic.
And social, what they're doing here in the Middle East is social media. The U.S. State Department is using it very, very effectively. They're spending a lot of money to get social media into the hands of the people so that it can be used to mobilize groups. Okay, this is one thing. For instance, you take the Mariani case. This gal that's fighting Hellerstein. Basically, he's linked to Israel, and he's advocating the 9/11 victims compensation awards and all this issue. Well, one thing is to absolutely get Hellerstein brought into the daylight. Use social media. Have the protest outside his house, outside the courtroom. Get rid of this guy. He is a major impediment to resolving and solving 9/11. In other words, he is part of the cover-up. Is he Jewish? Yes. I can't say he's Peruvian. I can't say he's Chinese. He's Jewish. There's no other way to report the news than to report the news. And if you're Jewish, then we have to report
But in no way am I like saying that the people that are not somehow responsible for their actions on either side. What I'm saying is that as a general public, with knowing silent weapons for quiet wars and how all their stealth methods of and false flags and everything that are going on, that the general public, somehow we need to be organized in a fashion that isn't butting heads, but complementing the traffic flow, I guess you could say, but at the same time, it's the household that they say that they've been trying to destroy, the family unit of the general public that they've been destroying systematically over hundreds of years now. These things we have to.
I got a new allegory for you. They say that the drug addict and the alcoholic, they can't come back up until they first want to do so themselves after they've fallen as far as they can. You've heard that often. Right. Well, in some respects, that is how it works inside of our Western civilizations. When this parasitic energy, and you can call it whatever you want, it is an energy. When it takes over, we see the absolute downfall of these civilizations. Look what happened to the depravity of Weimar. And then the people got so bad they rose back up. And that's kind of what's going to have to happen in the United States, unfortunately. There has to be an educated group like yourself out there who's ready to take a leadership role, educate. You have to duplicate and educate and try to make changes where you can. But I think part of it really is we don't have a choice. We kind of have a society that's drunk and in a stupor, and they're not going to wake up until they fall completely, just as that alcoholic and that drug addict is basically ground down into the ground and finally sees that this is not working and wants to make the change themselves.
Years ago...
Everything you said is very true, and that's all about the precipice. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Years ago, I got frustrated with reporting on what the New World Order was doing, and I tried to come up with answers. And I asked myself, how did we make it 100 years ago? How did we cross this country 200 years ago? How did we did it with a string of villages, a string of towns, and we did it with farmers and ranchers. And anytime a communist regime takes over a country, they go after the farmers first because they don't want you being able to feed themselves. So I came up with a plan called Liberty Villages, which is taking a small farm or a small ranch or a neighborhood, one block in LA or Detroit or anywhere, and growing our own food, generating our own energy, working with our sheriff. And this is happening right here in Texas. The sheriffs are meeting. The militia, which I certainly ADL tries to give me credit for that. I think it's a good idea. The militia working for the sheriffs. The sheriffs are taking a stand, they're suing Colorado for trying to pass restrictive gun laws that violate the Second Amendment. So there are groups, there are people out there that are doing this, but what you've got is a mainstream media and a bunch of jerks over here talking about hate on the chat room that are trying to disrupt anything productive that we're doing. That we've got the answers. We've had the ability. Go ahead. What?
I just want to throw in a lot of it has nothing to do with hate. First of all, no need to throw the hate them around. It has nothing to do with that. A lot of us are rational, pragmatic, practical people. We are political observers. It has nothing to do with hate. It's just rationalizing the situation we have and communicating what we believe we see. And when we, of course, the main issue goes back to, hey, if you are censoring us, well, obviously, first of all, you have no right to censor us. I don't go and tell you what you can and can't say. So don't get in my face and tell me what I can and can't say. And certainly don't get in my face and treat me like I'm a 5-year-old when you're acting like a 2-year-old. This really pisses me off in a real way. Because really, we're being treated as if somehow we're 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, by these elites. And when you look at how they work things, how they treat people, they're real values and opinions of people on this planet. And you will find they are some of the most pathetic, disgusting, amoral, immoral people you will ever meet. And they're the ones dictating to you what you can and can't hear. And these are just issues that we like to keep raising because obviously the issue is creating the political constituency, getting that mass awareness going so that it cannot be stopped.
When this mass awareness,
are you guys familiar with Jan Irvin and the Trivium?
You know what? I've not honestly looked into it. I see it, but I've not looked into it. It looks interesting.
How about logical fallacies? Because what you're saying right there is that, I mean, on all ends, we're the general public and the elite are basically utilizing logical fallacies. And if we were to just get the top 20 logical fallacies like ad hominems and red herrings, straw men, under our belt as in mass numbers and create that as a meme, like to say, okay, whatever we're doing in our media, we're going to constantly repeat or make a point to point out a logical fallacy that's going on every day. Even the ones that are running our own minds, because it's coming from every direction. That the indoctrination it happens, and until you really know what the logical fallacies are and how the media is manipulating them, it gives you a lot more confidence as an individual, whoever you are. If you are just a goyim, or if you're somebody with a little bit of sway or force, if you can call somebody out and say, hey, you're using an ad hominem attack against me, and everything you're saying is basically just proving to all the listeners that you're intellectually bankrupt on this point. This is what needs to be repeated over and over again is logical fallacies. At least the top 20 logical fallacies, the general public, we as the independent media, I consider it our duty to point out that just to say logical fallacy at least every day, and ourselves individually learn what the logical fallacies are, you know, and learn how to communicate and actually get, you know, confidence and
My point to speed this along is to take those 20 or so that you have in mind, get in touch with somebody like myself, and then let's actually bring it to the floor. And rather than just have a cloud, let's become a laser, pick exactly what you're referring to, and say, okay, this is it. Because yes, all of this is a war fought with words. At the end of the day, we are all fighting with words. There's no other way to look at it. And the only way we can educate is via words, images, and pictures. And the only way people are being controlled is using the same tactics and techniques. So, you're right. I mean, I would agree with you, but I would just want to see it focused, razor sharp, so that it is very sharp. You know, you've got somebody like the White Rabbit, Horace the White Rabbit. He speaks about the same types of concepts, using these, basically we're using political marketing phrases, and we have to become as astute and better at it than those who are targeting humanity and us as part of that human family. And so we need these quality marketing, strategies. You know, one of the ones I use is called intellectual violence. You try it. When somebody comes up and insults and attacks your intelligence, that's a form of intellectual violence. And why do we use that term? Because you have people within the Jewish community, you'll see them talk about how we must combat violence. We must combat violence. We have to combat violence. And everyone says, yeah, we got to combat violence. Well, how about combating the intellectual violence? How about combating that violence when you come up and you just spit in our face and just lie to our face and insult our intelligence, which is a form of violence, and it is an intellectual violence. How about combating that? You know, because we need to take these types of phrases, make them very short, very concise, to the point. And that's, I like doing it, so it's kind of fun for me. But that's something that needs to be done. You know, and when you see various, phrases in chat rooms or on forums or whatever, focus on these with a razor and come up with some type of marketing meme that would reverse the spell. I learned this technique from a Taoist master. He said, if you want to get rid of any disease on this planet, all energy is composed of it. All disease is composed of energy. So if we want to rid the planet of disease, we must create the counter spell, which is the exact opposite energetically of the disease. And that is what we're up against. We're up against a spiritual type of disease. So they use words, they use memes to assault and to attack and to control. So we must create the exact opposite memes to do the same thing, to assault, to attack, and to control. It has nothing to do with hate, has nothing to do with bigotry, it has nothing to do with all of that. We are talking about in a real war for the human family. If you somehow think as an audience that having 47 million of your fellow Americans subsisting on food stamps, if that's what you want to live in, well then just be silent. Just don't think, don't be a bigot, don't complain, and let this energy continue to consolidate its power. You know, if they don't have unlimited resources humanity-wise, tie them up and little skirmishes here, skirmishes there, and you'll find that you'll start to have some success while the spooks who work for you are able to maybe get a little bit more room while you're tying up resources elsewhere, using what you can to make a difference on the game of today, tomorrow.
All right, I appreciate your call. I haven't heard any real answers from you, but my phone number's up on my website, freeamerican.com. I'm always looking for answers. I'm looking for ways to work. And the more I do the news, I mean, the answers that I've got to grow your own food and generate your own power, that's under attack. The people that are doing that, the people that are growing the non-GMO vegetables and plants are under attack. And as well as, we got 20 states that got medical marijuana now. And the federal government is still coming in and attacking those people who are running a legitimate business in their state. So we've got every answer that we find. You've got somebody trying to stop it. You've got Monsanto out there suing farmers, taking their whole crop of soybeans because some of their seeds blew over into their land. You know, now it's the answer is really to organize within your own community, because we certainly can't affect the World Bank here. We have to remove as much support from them as we can, and this is what they're afraid of. They're more afraid of us becoming self-sufficient and talking to our neighbors and working with our neighbors than they are any revolution here. But thanks for your call. I appreciate it.
Well, I agree with you about the food and getting and being attacked on all fronts as far as trying to get GMO and everything. My website is tooltreebot.com, and I have all of that talked about it as well. And we're seeing actually, you know, different situations actually happen too. Yes, we have raw milk, you know, raids going on, but we also have lots of progress that's going on too.
All right, send me a link, Clay at Free America.
I try to focus on that the best I can.
Okay, I have another guest on here, so I wanna finish this conversation with Dennis. Send me an email and your name and all that, and I've got your phone number here. I'll add that, and I'll take a look at your website. Appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Really good.
All right, Dennis. What I you know, I didn't hear any definite solutions from this. You know, again, I've said, you know, one of the problems we have is how do you fight evil without becoming evil? And we'll take a few more calls. 347-688-2902. And what answers do you see for us in America? I mean, everything we've started. After Waco, I started the militias because I told my wife of the time that I would not sit back and watch something like that happen on television again without trying to do something. I was screaming at the TV.
I think what people need to do, Clayton, it's a huge monolithic conspiracy. And we don't need to sound quacks to say that. Just go back to Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy spoke about it very eloquently in a speech back in 1961, 62, something to that. I'm not sure of the date. But nonetheless, he spoke very eloquently about this monolithic conspiracy. Now, this is what, 50 years later. So to presume that that conspiracy, after he was assassinated, disappeared, died, and went away is about as irrational as it's going to get. It exists within, largely, the world of national security, where it can be kept quiet, kept silent, operate without anybody looking into it. But nonetheless, it's there. It is there. So what people need to do is just find something they are passionate about and get involved. Again, you don't have, and they don't have, their army is smart, but it's not that smart. You know that because you were targeted and you were able to figure out the targeting. That's because they're not all that smart people. And the more people you tie up, because this energy, it is forced to react. It is a machine. It's like a machine code. Now we're talking about how it works. It's really like a machine code. If you are able to do something within words, etc., that this machine will react. Now, some of you might become a target. Well, that's called war, okay? When we are involved in a war. I understand a lot of you can't do that. You don't want to be involved. It's dangerous, etc. Yeah, you have to consider this fact. It has to be factored into your risk factors. There was a story just this week, Clayton, about the woman who was trying to do some cleaning up in the voter fraud. She was targeted by the IRS, the Department of Homeland Security, OSHA, you name it. All kinds of energies went after her. All kinds of organizations went after this woman. That's just the way it is, guys. But you're going to tie up resources, and when you get them to react, that's when you are in the stage where you can begin the exposure. Because as long as they're able to work silently, there's no way to change anything. The difference is when you get them to react, they're not that smart. It's much easier to begin the exposure process and start the cleanup process. But you have to just find something, Clayton, you're interested in. You know that, I know that. And people need to find something that motivates them. And I don't care what it is, because whether it's you know, figuring out exactly which air base that the chemtrail planes are flying from, and working on that issue to genetically modified foods, to preserving the alimentaris, the Codex Alimentaris for your vitamins and supplements. It doesn't matter. There's so much that needs to be done. And just turn off the television, because it's called programming, and as long as you're allowing them to program you, you're going to have to deal with it. We're doing the same, guys. You know, when we do our radio shows, it's programming. But you want to fill your brain with information that's positive and useful that you can take and learn. We've been there, we've done it, we've experienced being harassed, hammered, attacked, assaulted, you name it. We've been there. We can help guide the way. But ultimately, it's going to take a huge army, because the war is against humanity itself, and that's what people have a hard time grasping.
It's I don't know. You know, sometimes I get really discouraged. You know, with these, especially with these chat rooms. I probably should do like Hawk said, not even watch them, because you know, I've got a friend that started the militia up in Montana, John Trogman. And after I got out of the hospital, I called him up, and I said, "What are you doing now, John?" He said, "I'm selling advertising for a little local paper." I said, "You're not doing the militia Montana anymore?" He said, "No." And I said, "Well, how can you quit? How can you quit?" And he said, "You know, Clay, we tried to tell them what FEMA was going to become. We tried to tell them what NAFTA was going to do. We tried to tell them about the Federal Reserve. They wouldn't support us then. They won't support us now. So to hell with them. They're going to get the government they deserve." And you know, when I see these people that are just being nothing but negative, they ain't got any answers themselves, and they're trying to put down you and I for pointing out what the problems are. It's like, who are we fighting for here? And you've kind of demonstrated that. I can't bring myself to leave the country, but it's like, who are we fighting for? Go ahead.
Well, ultimately, you fight for your protege, you fight for your children, your grandchildren. You know, you have to make a difference. Otherwise, you know, the only thing for evil to succeed is for good men and women to do nothing. And I kind of take that to heart, you know. It just, you have to do something. You know, you have to be on record. You know, when the chips are there, you want your ledger counted. This is where I stood. And if we are right, Clayton, and we suspect we are, obviously, or else we're not going to be doing what we do, at least we walked the walk, you know, we talked the talk, walked the walk, etc. Mind you, I'm in areas, I'm trying to influence all the time. I meet with people all over the place, and we discuss these issues just like you're discussing now, right here on the radio with you guys. I talk this way with directors of government agencies, and you name it, here in the Middle East. And I'm blessed, I guess you could say, in some of your circles, that I can do it. I'm grateful to be able to. The government here has been very good. They work hard. There's certain elements, obviously, I don't like, but how can I complain when I see what's happening in the United States, you know? So, you know, every country has its problems, I like to say, you know, but everybody has to try, Clayton. Otherwise, then you will have a problem.
Well, that is the problem. You know, the Liberty villages that I talked about would work in any neighborhood on one square block if the neighbors just got together and worked together and turned their crabgrass in the backyard into a garden, and turned their roofs into solar panels, kicked out the neighborhood association, which will try to keep you from doing that, because the power companies don't like that. We could make a difference. I went to a Tesla convention. We've had these answers for 100 years. 100 years ago, you could go to the drugstore and buy all the heroin that you wanted. Most of our medicine was made out of cannabis, and yet they took that away from us. Cannabis, hemp, was our number one cash crop at the turn of the century, up until the 30s, and they stole that from us. We got 10,000 products made out of it. We can buy it in. We could buy it in. We can buy it from China now, but our farmers can't grow it here. That was the first attack on the U.S. farmer here. That was a rotational crop. And during the war, they were required to grow it. The government wanted them to grow it. I've got it up on my Facebook site. I got a $10 bill that's got a hemp field on the back of it, printed in 1914. Printed on hemp paper. Printed on hemp paper. So matter of fact, what I'm doing, actually this is tomorrow, I thought I was going to be doing it today, is, that I believe Congress needs to break the financial stranglehold of Jewish bankers and criminals based in Israel since the early 1900s by abolishing all laws against victimless crimes and restoring our constitutional monetary system as John F. Kennedy tried to do with Executive Order 11110 in 1963. This isn't race specific. It ain't pointing the fingers at Jews or blacks or Mexicans or anything else, or Arabs or Muslims or Palestinians.
Peruvians. I like to use Peruvians.
What's that?
I like to use the word Peruvian. I like the Peruvians. I think they're terrible. Gotta be the Peruvians. It's gotta be, going back to Machu Picchu. I mean, this is something that's a very old conspiracy, and I don't care it's the Machu Picchuans,
Well, I think it's kind of unique that every center of ancient civilization that contains structures that we can't build today, and they want you to believe that was somehow done with slave labor. That's in prime dope growing regions, and let's see, why did we invade Afghanistan? Oh yeah, those nasty old Taliban were destroying the opium poppy crops. I said, Mr. Obama, tear down that wall between us and Mexico, replace it with tables, and institute free trade. Abolish all the victimless crimes up here, and let the Peruvians and let the Colombians and let the Mexicans bring all their pot and their coke up here, set it on the table, pay a duty on it, and let Americans buy it, take it home with them. We could eliminate the $1 billion. We've got more people in prison here.
It's $40 billion market, right? Market. And it's all black market, and that's what's funding so much of the black operations in intelligence worlds. We're not talking, so it's not something that's going to obviously get shut down overnight. But yeah, I agree. I mean, you have the right formula. But the force we're up against is $200 billion business model.
That's right,
and
that's why they killed Barry Seal.
$200 billion business model. Ed Crow, he's still here. Crow can vouch for that for us. How are you going to wipe out a $200 billion model? It's not just going to go away. No way.
And that's why they don't want it legal. If it was legal and you could grow it in your backyard, we wouldn't have this drug running business.
Exactly. You wouldn't have the drug running, you wouldn't have the drug distribution. I estimate, you've hundreds of, maybe 100,000 or more drug dealers in America. Maybe for all we know, because we can't get access to the record, all working under protection, under witness protection plans, etc. These are things that need to be cracked. Yeah, cracked. They need to be cracked. Period. How many drug dealers in America are protected under witness protection plans? Okay, there's something that'll get you. You want to get into something that's really a challenge and exciting? You go figure out how many people in the drug dealing world are working for the police under drug protection plans. I guarantee you, if you start to crack that, just that alone, your life will become so exciting, it's going to mirror anything you saw on the X-Files.
Well, I I have been there. I was in the paraphernalia industry for a lot of years, so I was on the fringes. But in my book Mystery Babylon, I detail the Mossad and the CIA running the drugs in to a little airport called Mena, Arkansas. So if the CIA is bringing the drugs in, and the cops and the district attorneys, like in Arkansas, that was involved in those two young men that were killed on the railroad tracks that saw them deliver the drugs, they obviously they're going to know who the drug dealers are, and that's why we've got more drug dealers and more people in prisons for victimless crimes than they've got in China, where they can grow hemp there, obviously. Canada, where they can grow hemp there, obviously, but we can't grow it here. That's kind of incredible, isn't it? All right, we got a caller. Hello, David.
Hello, Clayton. How are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing fine. Say hello to Dennis. This is David Koss. He'll be a guest on my show on Sunday, and one of the prime targets for harassment on the chat room.
John Heisenberg just kicked me off again, Clayton. I just wanted to let you know. That's why I decided to call in today. Good morning, guys. It's great to hear you speaking today, and you're telling the truth all the way. This W.H. Heisenberg is a real clown out there, though. He might have his own show, but he seems to think he can kick me off whenever he wants, and I just like telling him he's a real fool, and it doesn't matter to me. Little minds do little things like that. Okay.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. I'm sorry you got kicked off, but I mean, I believe.
Well, he's the only one that kicks me. He's the only one kicking me off ever. He kicked me off last night off somebody else's show when I was listening to Alfred Weber, and he kicked me today too because he just doesn't like me. But that's okay. I don't particularly like him either. But tune in Weisenberg Monday.
All right, sir. I'll see you. We'll do my show on Monday. Stay out of the chat room. Leave them alone. They're nothing that's not being productive. So. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate the call.
Sure. Okay, bye.
All right, and let's see what the comment.
I don't have chat. I generally don't have chat room drama inside the island. I boot a lot of people off of my chat room also, but more for the trolling reasons. I actually do. I run a tight chat room myself, guys. But it's a good chat room. We have good audiences there, typically Saturday mornings. Good educated discussion. Of course, we've had that audience for a long time, going back over a year and a half, so it's not like we're just going to drop the ball. But yeah, we run a tight chat room. I do a lot of booting also.
And I can certainly do that. I don't care. It's not. I don't care much for the comments in the chat room in the first place. They're lucky I don't run it. But hey, if there's just a film that came out about contact, about disclosure, the Disclosure Project. And I've said, and they back me up on this, that they want the UFOs to be top secret because they don't want you knowing that we could have lunch on the moon and be back in time for dinner and not use any gasoline. And the people that are doing the Disclosure Project said that that's true. That's what they're doing. They also talk about talking with the aliens. That are flying this UFOs, if they're aliens at all. They could be wearing Air Force uniforms, but they do say they're telepathic and communicate telepathically. So We get a lot of people that think they talk to God. Some people think they talk to aliens. You know, maybe that's just telepathy and at play at work. I don't know. I've had people ask me, why don't we see you in church, Clay? Why don't we see you in...
I don't.
Go ahead, Dennis. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't get it too much, the alien issue, because I don't know. I don't have first-hand knowledge. I try to keep to the geopolitics and just the common sense use of the language and things that are much more practical. I know it's a big interest, of course. I know people are interested. From time to time, I find it interesting, but it's not something I personally do because I don't have personal knowledge. And I don't feel I'm qualified to actually talk and try to influence people when I'm just talking out of my you-know-what, because I don't have first-hand knowledge. So I try to avoid it myself. But yeah, I don't have a doubt, though, that the United States works with alien energies. I don't doubt that at all. I mean, that is part of why you would want and use national security. And I'm sure things like fiber optics came out of the some type of alien reverse engineering project. Obviously, it's for reasons you would use fiber optics in this type of thing, especially if you're going through EMP type of fields, electromagnetic pulse fields, things like that. Fiber optics is not going to work the same as copper, okay? And it's a lot lighter, and you can carry, obviously, far more information over the fiber optic. So obviously, some of the things we see out there hint at some type of external influence, but we don't know. I mean, somebody knows. We can only suspect and have a strong belief, but to say we know, that certainly I don't know.
Well, I've had personal knowledge and personal conversations with the Marine colonel that escorted the alien from Roswell to Truman's office. I've also seen the documents of the woman that was translating for the government, but that doesn't matter. You know, with a billion stars out there, there's got to be other life out there. And it was kind of interesting.
The only ones that
it was kind of interesting. I went to a Tesla convention a couple of years back, and there was no Tesla devices there, no free energy, and no magnetic generators. And I asked why, and they said, well, it's against national security. If the oil companies own our security services, you know, they certainly wouldn't want you to build a magnetic generator that could run forever. They built them in, I've seen videos of them running in Australia, but evidently they're not allowed here due to it being a national security issue. And the whole cancer industry, talk about another multi-billion-dollar industry, you know, cancer, and there are people
the cancer is broad.
That's that.
Unless I have talked to a very high-level alternative.
It's pretty interesting. Dennis, we're almost out of time. And I really appreciate you being on my show. Love to be back on yours. Hope we really get some good listeners. What you've said is very important. People need to know who is running this. It's the neocons. All right, we're almost out of time, folks. If you go to freeamerican.com, you can hear this show. You can download it and pass it around. Tell your people about it. They don't want you to get this information out, so the best thing you can do is see that it does get out. Right click, you'll save the URL where we'll have this. It'll also be up on YouTube. And you can catch Dennis, when's your show again? The links to your website are on my page.
Yes, Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning, catch Inside the Eye Live, intelligent media for the politically aware, right here on Revolution Radio, Studio A. Again, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern to 12 o'clock p.m. And the website is InsideTheEyeLive.com. That's right, InsideTheEyeLive.com.
All right, and that's all linked on freeamerican.com. Shop www.freeamerican.com will let you pick up some of my books, and we've got the history of the Rothschilds in my book in one chapter. And if you start looking at how long these banksters have been trying to run things, you know, it goes all the way back to the League of Nations, goes all the way back to the Balfour Declaration. You know, England had no right to give away the country of Palestine to the Jews. And I'll see that I get links up there to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which I shared with you in the first half hour. And folks, just ask yourself, who's doing that today? Where is that coming from? All right. We're out of time here. Music's coming up. Dennis Fetcho, thank you very much. God bless you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.